And hello and good morning. We are live once again here on Boles.tv. Oh yes, it's BOLES.tv. I'm David Boles, and we are here Monday through Friday live, sort of live and in person at 9 a.m. Eastern. Several things to kick off our day and end our week. The weather here in New York is just terrible. It's raining all day. There's track fires on the path. No one can get anywhere. Luckily, the Jana Marie is telecommuting today, so she doesn't have to deal with any of it. But outside the window, there's no sunshine and rain. Yesterday was a bright sunny day, no wind. We took a long walk, had a wonderful time, 70 degrees. Today, it's different. Tomorrow, same thing, rain all day. Sunday, same thing, rain all day. And I don't mind the rain. The rain is good. It washes things, cleansing. It's a taste of what's to come. So as you can see, our Discord thing overlay is back on our live stream. It was offline for a couple of days. I guess they were fixing things. And then I look, and this right here is not really fixed. It's not supposed to say object. I love that it's really live stream captions. So you can have closed captions, or you can have live captions. But when it says object, it's supposed to say scriptly, which is doing the transcribing, and then the name of the person that's being transcribed. So if we had other people in live chat and they were with us and they were speaking as well, it would objectively translate what they're saying, but with their name appended to it. But it doesn't seem like it's working that way, and I don't know why. But this is back. That when the person speaking in the group is speaking, the green circle goes around the idea of the person. That I like. And then we have this is back, and it seems like they now say how many people are online. So you, I guess, can theoretically click on that, and it will take you to one of our channels where you can say hello. And for some reason, a lot of our streaming software got updated yesterday. A lot of the Elgato stuff says, hey, we have new software for your lights. Do you want to install it? Oh, no. No, I don't want to install it. But then you have to install it because you have to be updated, and if it's not updated, then it's not going to work. Because they update right before Windows comes out with a major re-release. So yesterday I said, okay. Restarted the machine. Tested all the lights. Our lights back here. This is a bright red, although it looks pink. None of them worked. Go into the Elgato Command Center and reinstall 4 lights, which takes about 10 minutes for each light. And now it all appears to be working. But yesterday it was all working. Turn on the machine today and half the lights disappeared. And how was your morning? So you have to reinstall, turn it on, find things, put it on the network. What's the password? What color do you want it? How bright do you want it? It's amazing that any of this works, as I've said many times. And I do say that with some kind of reverence and awe because I have no idea what I'm doing. And at least I'm here. But the idea of being able to stream once again live to Facebook and YouTube as well as Twitch is very appealing. So there are rumors that may be coming, but maybe it's only for partners and not for affiliates. But I think if you're going to do it for partners, you got to do it for affiliates. Because that worked. We had a lot of people on our Facebook chat who were hard of hearing and deaf, and they prefer to chat on Facebook and not on Twitch. The only problem is to see the chat in our software, you have to go to the view of that chat. And you don't get notified when someone posts a new message in Facebook or on Twitch. So you have to kind of go back and forth every 30 seconds. Someone's saying anything, someone's saying anything. No, 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 no. Oh, there it is. And then I don't think it gets really put on this live chat thing either, which is always very interesting. So updating software is always a terror. Not so much on Apple, because usually you update something and it just works better. With Windows, you don't know what else is going to break in the system, and something else always breaks. Well, news today that Jen Psaki, the lovely freckled red-haired woman who is the press secretary for the President of the United States, is now leaving. I think she was supposed to leave in January, but she stayed a few extra months. And she's being replaced by a woman who I guess is now the first black LGBTQ person to ever hold that position. Now, I kind of remember her from analyst days on, I think it was MSNBC. And it's going to be interesting to watch her in the press role, because when she was on TV, she was not always clear. It kind of, stated obvious things as if they were in sight. And she tended to speak in expected terms. There was no twist of the tongue that made it interesting and that hooked you into listening to her. So how did she get this job? Why is she in this job? I don't know. But being well established doesn't mean you're always going to be successful, as what I'm about to show you. Every morning, Microsoft OneDrive sends me a little email saying, hey, do you remember this when this happened? And sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. And yesterday, hey, this popped up. This was like one of the very first photographs that we were ever presented from Big Joe Biden. Now, this was clearly approved by Big Joe Biden and approved by Jen Psaki. And what a complete and total disaster this is and was. This is Big Joe Biden, the giant, and his giant wife, Jill, visiting Jimmy and Rosalind Carter in their home in Georgia, with Amy in the background, in a painting. And it's absolutely the most ridiculous official photograph from the White House that you will probably ever see. And who, why, and how this was approved is just shocking, because there's no way to look at this without laughing at them. And it's a big joke. Gordon says, I love the transcription, turned that into Jaja. Turned what into Jaja? I'm not paying attention. Transcription turned that into Jaja. I'm not paying attention. Oh, I'm reading my own transcription. Now that's a mirror. So you have, when he said Georgia, oh, made it into Georgia. Very cool. Now, if I said Georgia, would that translate black into Georgia? That would be funny. Oh, I said Georgia. And captions are always terrible. The closed captions are awful. The captions live that you see on TV are awful. The only good captions are captions that are copied and pasted from the actual script and then timed to the actors, which you usually see on TV shows and movies. Otherwise, live captions are just really awful, especially when they're transcribed by robots. Real people can go back and make changes, correct things. The robots just say, hey, from here on out, it's J-A-J-A. You figure it out. So this image of mockery was one of the first official portraits we received from our new Biden White House. And for those of us who know, and those of us who study politics and semiotics, you're saying, boy, this is a bad, bad, bad thing. With the tiny little Carters and the great big giant Bidens. Now later they said, oh, it's a small room and we had to have a fisheye lens and the Bidens are on the corners of the fisheye lens and that's why the Carters are so small. When you have to explain in PR, you have lost the PR war. Now, speaking of the PR war, this whole SCOTUS thing is very interesting. Lots of protesting. And now they're saying, oh, the Supreme Court's so worried that this leaked and that all these liberals are going to bring guns and violence, and it's going to be January 6th all over again, but it's going to be people fighting to murder babies. And so we're putting up fences, and all the red state Republicans are protecting their state houses from these wilding liberals who are going to march on them and try to fight for the right to kill children in the womb. Now, they didn't take January 6th seriously, but this leaked decision from Sam Alito is causing all these conservatives to fret and worry so they can pick up their guns and shoot. And so this hit my inbox this morning, and I actually liked it and tweeted it, I guess forwarded it, whatever you say. This is from OLV. Now, I follow the OLV Twitter feed because it's really wonderful. And this is what they do. OLV shares daily information about TV and movie filming locations around the globe. Email us your photographs of things that you find on the street. I'll show you their feed in a minute. So that's what they do. Law and Order is filming on this street Tuesday. That's what their feed is. And this morning, they said this, trying not to get political on our page. But this one really resonated with me. So you have a movie production Twitter feed that's now taking up the cause, which is very interesting to me. Protests and celebrity pleas are not changing anything. We need to eliminate the stigma around reproductive health care. And that's the point we were trying to make yesterday. You have to say the word abortion. The president has to say the word abortion. A woman has the right to an abortion, period. Fight me. That's what he has to say. Not, oh, well, reproductive rights. Woman has to have a choice. All true, but not very effective. We need to eliminate the stigma around reproductive health care. 25% of women have had at least one abortion. 99% of women have used some sort of birth control. And that, even oddly enough, includes the rhythm method. And I know good Catholics who use the rhythm method as divined by God and the Pope, and they end up getting pregnant anyway. Oh, it was God's will. Why bother? Over 10% of women have used the morning after pill, and that's very interesting because that's very new. And they're not going to stop with Roe. They're going to go after those blue states sending pills into their state. Oh, we have a war brewing. Over 10% of women have sought infertility treatment. These issues impact all women and all men, by the way. Women are not an island unto themselves. They do interact with men. We need to start standing up and sharing our stories. F your Aunt Sally, who thinks abortion is murder. Muck duck. F your co-worker Helen, who might judge you. It's now or never. And that is from the Movie and TV, Here We Are Twitter account. And this is normally what they put up. Filming locations, photographs of filming a movie. Beth and Dawn just wrapped up Broadway and 18th Street. And this is what they post on their Twitter feed. They don't talk about politics. They don't talk about abortion. They don't talk about Joe Biden. They don't talk about anything. They talk about making movies. And it's a lovely, lovely account. And people from all over the country, sometimes the world, send in photographs saying, hey, what's going on? I see these movie cameras. And then they investigate and they try to figure out, oh, that's the new Marvel movie. Hey, neat. And this is what 99% of their feed is this. These shots from New York City, which is obviously where they're based. No parking signs, which are probably the most fun and easiest way to figure out what's being filmed in the city. You can go to the official website and look it up, but this tells you days, times, phone numbers of the production people. If you want to get daring or creative, you can call them and say, hey, could I get a picture with Mariska? And I guarantee you the answer is always yes, because Mariska will stop and take a picture with you. Ever's Blueberry. So you find out all these shows that are coming up. It's just the greatest thing ever. So this national conversation we're having about killing babies, murder in the womb. Oh, Gordon, our friend Gordon. Often the project name is a pseudonym if they want to avoid detection. Very true. And that's always fun because they always figure that out too. This is what they regularly post. It's this some kind of Google's doc thing. And it shows you everything that's filming, why and where. Why am I seeing flashing things? Maybe it's my own screen. I'm seeing my own screen. Maybe that's what's going on. I'm paranoid because I lost my lights yesterday. I'm okay. So they update this Google Doc every day. May 2, May 3. What day are we on? May 6. May 5. May 6. Filming locations. Here you go. Truth be told. 221 North Gower, Los Angeles. Gadget, Oppenheimer, Los Angeles. College Girls, Los Angeles. Untitled Gabe Special, New York. Gossip Girl, Ho Ho, Brooklyn Academy of Music. Beautiful, beautiful place. Fugue, also known as Dear Edward. Queens, FBI's Most Wanted. Court and Union of Brooklyn. Fleischman is in trouble. 23rd Street and 8th, New York City. And then it goes on and on. It shows you where all the things have been. You can see right now. Los Angeles, New York. That's where they make movies and films. So our big buddy Bob Lefsetz takes on the right at his own peril. And I have tried to do that in my own life. And I know that what Bob is going to tell you right now is absolutely true. That when you say anything that the hard right doesn't like, they will attack you with everything they have. They will call you names. They will come after you. They will flood you. They will try to engage you in anger, try to get a rise out of you. And then the conversation usually ends with them saying, I'm going to find you, and by the way, I have a gun. With the threat being that they're going to shoot you. And as Bob is going to explain, liberals, less conservative people, when they disagree with you, tend to be a little more intellectual, less emotional, try to convince you with thought and logic of the error of your ways. And they don't threaten to shoot you at the end. So here's a little more on abortion from Bob. My inbox is blowing up with missives from the right. Now, Bob is, as he says, a super Jew. He has skin cancer. He's very old. His girlfriend is Henry Mancini's daughter, who runs the Opus Foundation. They live together. They are not married. He is a radical, left-wing, super intellectual liberal. The classic, highly educated man born of the Jewish faith in a Jewish family. Why these conservatives come after him and attack him, well, we can know why. But why they think they can change Bob's mind is the funny part. My inbox is blowing up with missives from the right wing. They're not cautious and they're not pretty, which is a very kind way of saying, I have a gun, I'll shoot you. They're agitated and explosive, and they quote, they just won Roe, right? Oh, they won. It's not enough for them. Which means what I said resonated with them. Their goal is to shut me up. Their goal is to shut everyone up who doesn't agree with them. They want you to believe you're whacked. You don't understand. You, Bob Lefsetz, should stick with what you know, the music business, and he's a lawyer and a skier, and be ready for the consequences. Okay, that's the gun part. And then Bob goes on to say, this is not what happens when I write something that POs the left. It takes a long time for the lefties to respond. And it's whiny and internalized. It's focused on the issue, not me as a person. I'm sure the first thing that a lot of those conservatives say to him is, you're a Jew. How dare you? Because that's what they did. When I was doing Boles blogs in the early days, that's the first thing they would say to me, you Jew. And I'd say, well, I'm not a Jew. Thank you, but I'm not. And it's internalized, and it's focused on the issue, not me. It's action-free, non-threatening from the liberals, coming from a defensive position, as opposed to an offensive position. Passive, not active. And Bob goes on, now, one of the big problems we have in society is people are uninformed. They only read and see that which agrees with them, and algorithms at Google and Facebook ensure this is the case. After all, they want you to use their products. They want you to be addicted. They want your time, but they don't want to PO you. But if you read, watch a cornucopia of information, and Bob does, he subscribes to all the magazines, he reads all the newspapers every day, Wall Street Journal and New York Times, and he wants all sides. And he says that we need to have all sides. You have to read the Wall Street Journal. If you're reading the New York Times, you have to. If you want to be well informed. But if you read, watch a cornucopia of information, you get a much more broad insight into what's going on. I point you first to a piece by Erwin Chemerinsky, Dean of the University of California, Berkeley School of Law. And he used to be on TV all the time. And he was a very strange and odd-looking fellow and quite delightful. And I haven't seen him on TV for maybe 5 or 10 years. I guess he's busy being the dean of the law school. And his op-ed is, the brazenly political Supreme Court shows it will strike down abortion rights. And here's the most important section. And we're going to get that in a minute, because now I got to zha-zha a little bit. It's blood pressure time. Oh, it's covering my beautiful face. It's blood pressure time. And if I don't take my break for advertising, Twitch will. Back in a moment. And we are back from break. I have to turn on my lights over here, which I'll show you in a minute. And the positions I have to get in to turn them on is not something you want to watch live on the screen. So I turned on the be right back thing. Now, yesterday, our new friend Igba from our Discord server, who is an NFT artist, goes by Igba1 on Twitch, was here in the morning, second day. I saw him here, then he disappeared. So I asked him, I said, what happened? You were with us. The day before you said a couple of things, you posted some things, and then you disappeared and you didn't come back. I live in Russia. I have bad internet connection. Okay. But I hope it's not because he's very worried about his English. He has to use translators, and he types in Russian, it translates, then he cuts and pastes, puts it in there, and I guess by the time he gets it all translated and put out here that we've moved on to something else. But that makes me sad. I got to figure out a way to fix that, to make him feel more welcome here some way that involves better auto translation for him. But I don't know if it's possible. So back to our old buddy Bob. And speaking of being not a Jew, but being accused of being a Jew, it's like it doesn't stop there. You're a Jew. Thank you, but no. You hang out. You sound like. You believe. You've been taught by. Yes, thank you, yes. What does that have to do with anything? And they can't explain it. It's like, in their mind, the most awful, terrible thing they could accuse anybody of is of association with or being Jewish. And that's a mentality I've seen over the years of my career as an online writer. And it's very bothersome and very disturbing, and it hurts my feelings. And as I said, thank you, but I'm not. But I have a lot of friends and mentors and associates and good people that are. And it's very offensive to me. But that's what they want. They want to upset you. So here's what Erwin Chemerinsky had to say. Roe, quoting, was egregiously wrong from the start. Its reasoning was exceptionally weak. The decision has damaging consequences, and far from bringing about a national settlement on the abortion issue, Roe and Casey have inflamed debate and deepened division. Ooh, the windows are open. Something just crashed outside the window. Welcome to the big city. Every aspect of this statement is wrong. The reasoning of Roe, a 7-2 decision that was repeatedly reaffirmed by the court, is not weak. For decades before Roe, the Supreme Court held that the liberty of the Due Process Clause protected fundamental aspects of privacy and autonomy. Prior to Roe, the court had protected liberties such as the right to marry, the right to procreate, the right to use contraception. That's next. The right to control the upbringing of children, and the right of every person to choose whether to bear or beget a child. That is Erwin writing, that's not Bob writing. And Erwin continues to say, Roe followed these decisions with the common sense realization that laws that prohibit abortion and force a woman to carry a pregnancy to term against her will are intrusions on her autonomy and privacy. Unless the court is going to repudiate all of the other privacy rights, it is impossible to deny that laws prohibiting abortion also intrude on a woman's liberty. Now, Bob says, I point you to Aaron Tang, a professor of law at UC Davis. He wrote a piece which is also in the Los Angeles Times called The Supreme Court, Flunks Abortion History. All of this is pure gold. It refutes Alito's screed with facts. And here's what Aaron Tang says. But the most shocking aspect of the leaked opinion is something else entirely. the glaring historical mistakes that pervade its supposedly originalist analysis. Contrary to the draft's conclusion, for as long as America has existed, so too have abortions, in most cases free of any form of criminal punishment. And then Bob says you should really go read Tang's article because it completely refutes Alito's analysis, which is that there's no constitutional right to an abortion and therefore it must be thrown back to the states to make or not make law. And then Bob continues, and this is all right again. You see, the Republicans got out there first with their spin that the justices' hands were tied. They were only doing what was required, and this has been repeated ad infinitum. As for the other side, the only thing that has gotten traction is Alito's quotation of Sir Matthew Hale, who had at least 2 women executed for witchcraft and wrote a treatise sporting marital rape. This is like taking advice from Charles Manson. In other words, Alito is cherry-picking what he wants from history and assumes that the general public are just too stupid and will just buy whatever he is saying and move on. Hey! It's true. Betting if there's any correction at all, it won't get much amplification, never mind traction. It's all true, already happening. Which brings me to S.E. Cupp, her segment on CNN. Now, S.E. Cupp is a conservative. She is rational and rather okay to have a conversation with. She tries to see both sides, but she is traditionally more conservative. And she says, this is Bob saying this about her video. Every lefty must watch this to see the right-wing strategy. They are all on the same page. They are all saying the leak of Alito's draft opinion is worse than January 6th. Really. You have to watch S.E. Cupp's video to know what you, as a leftist, are up against. This is a machine with talking points. It keeps hammering home, and again, to the point where its audience knows and believes what is said, irrelevant of veracity. Ever had an argument with someone who's got the facts wrong? That's what my email is like, Bob says. I mean, if we can't agree on the facts, how can we have a conversation? And it's Putin's strategy to tire you out with misinformation, so you'll give up and stay home. It's not by accident, it's all planned. And the right wing has its vocal troops in alignment. Where's the left wing? Home alone and scared. It's all true. It's very true. Now, speaking of Alito, it's very interesting that his leaked piece talks about eugenics. And the right wing and the Catholic Church have positioned themselves, and we've talked about this before on this live stream, as the protectors of the disabled and the unborn. Because an abortion is a form, they argue, of eugenics. You have decided that you don't want this child because it's disabled or deaf or has limb problems, and God loves all children, and all children that are conceived must be born. And to kill them in the womb, to murder them, is eugenics. It's Hitler all over again. That is the Catholic Church's point of view on abortion. It's eugenics. So here's a very interesting Reuters analysis on a footnote buried in a leaked abortion opinion, invoking modern-day eugenics. And it talks about So Reuters answers, research has shown that women are more likely to die during or after childbirth than from the complications of an abortion, and that state laws restricting access to abortion contribute to rising rates of pregnancy-related deaths. Moreover, U.S. maternity mortality rates are 3 to 4 times higher for black women than for white or Hispanic women. Abortion, legalized in the 1970s, led to a 9.6 increase in black women's college graduation rate, and that abortion access resulted in a 6.9% rise in black women's labor market participation rate, 3 times higher than the rate for women generally, according to a brief in the Supreme Court case. Now, there are people who are saying, look, this is all a big ploy to force white women to have more white babies because the minorities are having all the children and the white women are getting the abortions. And so if you believe in white power, you need more white babies to carry that flag. That's analysis on some of the right-wing sites, and it's said by sort of people who are trying to be serious. Alito's only consideration of racial disparities is a nod to an ahistorical argument initially made by Justice Clarence Thomas, the black man on the Supreme Court, that links the right to abortion to the historic eugenics movement. Here we go. And racist campaigns to limit black reproduction. Put briefly, the idea is that abortion restrictions are desirable, especially for minorities, because of past attempts by eugenicists and other racist ideologues to artificially limit the black American population. Well, in the white power groups, they're reporting just the opposite of that. That abortion is bad for the white people. And that there should be more abortions in the minority culture because they're having too many kids. The conservatives' Justice Draft opinion essentially turns a blind eye to actual evidence of grave, racially disparate harms caused by a lack of access to maternal health care and focuses instead on fringe arguments that seem to reframe opposition to abortion as racial justice. And here we go on the footnote. And this is all by Reuters, which is a mainstream, big-time news operation. And they're picking this apart. And that's their job. And maybe they're waking up to do it. In a footnote on page 30, Sam Alito cites arguments made by Thomas in a separate concurring opinion in May 2019, and in a brief filed by a small group of evangelical leaders and conservative organizations, including Alveda King, a black anti-abortion activist and niece of Martin Luther King Jr. Thomas's concurrence in a box versus a Planned Parenthood reached the remarkable conclusion that the modern birth control movement developed alongside the American eugenics movement, and that some proponents have been motivated by a desire to suppress the size of the African American population. It is beyond dispute that Roe has had that demographic effect, Alito said. A highly disproportionate percentage of aborted fetuses are black. Which is just the opposite of what the white supremacists are saying. Thomas pointed out correctly that the founder of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, was a fervent eugenicist. In Thomas's view, restrictions on abortion can, therefore, be justified by the public's interest in preventing abortion from becoming a tool of modern-day eugenics. No other justices signed on to Thomas's opinion. 7 scholars of the eugenics movement who spoke with the Washington Post in May of 2019 said Thomas's ruling was deeply flawed and distorts history in the service of ideology. And we go on a bit, and although it seems counterintuitive, many black Americans living during the eugenics movement saw utility in some of its political ideas. As a way to reclaim and vindicate black womanhood in periods when black women were largely targeted by horrific sexual violence. Ironically, when we try to govern who has access to reproductive health and restrict the right to abortion, the same people who are already the targets of the eugenics movement are the people who are going to be harmed. So this is all just beginning. And again, you have the same problem that you keep hearing on the news. Elizabeth Warren saying, we've known for 50 years the evil plan of these right-wing radicals. We knew what they were doing for 50 years. They didn't keep it a secret. They said it to our face. And now that it's come about and they won, they got their thing so far, people are standing up and saying, well, wait a minute. You say you knew for 50 years they were doing this, and what did you do to prevent it? And the answer is absolutely nothing. Now, I have a good friend who died during COVID. Playwright, successful, ill, smart. And many years ago, we talked about this idea of voting and abortion rights and women's productive rights. And he said to me, oh, David, this is established law. It's never going to change. No one's going to go back and get rid of Roe. It's impossible. It's politically unenforceable. And every once in a while, we kind of come back to that, and he would say, it's settled. Why do you worry about things you can't control? He's very liberal. Why are you worrying about things you can't control? There are other things that need to be fixed. Let it go. In your lifetime, in my lifetime, nothing's going to overturn Roe. And this is where it gets interesting, because then he died about a year ago. So in his scheme of life, in his experience, in his knowledge of living, he died right. In his lifetime, Roe was not overturned. Abortion was the woman's right of the land. So over the small arc of his small life, in this big thing we call the universe, his beliefs, his system of discovery and effort were all proven correct. However, time doesn't stop with the death of just one person. And so now he's wrong in death about the ability of Roe to survive the current political climate. So in my lifetime, it will be overturned. But in his lifetime, his truth was unassailed, untouchable. Didn't happen. And maybe that's where things get a little confused. As people become settled and comfortable over the span of 50 years, oh, things don't change. Donald Trump is a fool. He'll never become president. Roe is established. Stare decisis. Meow, meow, meow. I will protect the Constitution. Meow, meow, meow. Who would lie to Susan Collins? Not me. Meow, meow. And in the end, it's all a big lie. And things always change. That's one thing if you study science. Nothing remains in one place. Things are always changing. And you have to be able to predict to the best of your ability where things will land Not when they stop, but when they come this close to going through your brain. Do you move forward and just end it all, or do you try to move out of the way? Gordon says, I think you're confusing one of my cats, meow meow. She just meow meowed in response to your meow. That is the cutest thing I've ever heard. I hope you have it on video, and I hope you're sending it to me, because that is the cutest thing ever. And I think I get that from Mr. Rogers, right? Didn't he have meow meow kitty meow meow, and he would talk to the meow meow kitty meow meow in that way, and the meow meow kitty would reply back. That's where I think I got it. And I admit that sometimes when things are going good and I say beep beep, I get that from Pokimane. I didn't even know about beep beep till I watched her live stream. And whenever she's excited about something, beep beep. It's so dumb, but it's funny. And it makes me laugh. Well, I'm sorry to bother the cat with this. And I completely understand that Meow Meow Kitty is upset Meow Meow. So things are, I guess we should say, neither right or wrong. Moral and immoral, things are just what they are. And it's how we choose to approach them is where we find value. And morality and immorality and criminality in the behavior. What works for one life beginning to an end is not going to work for one life beginning to an end. And I guess that's where wisdom and experience pop in and play a part. And now Twitch is going to hit us. But we're going to hit first. Because we're being proactive. We'll be back in a moment. And we are live, back from break, Boles.tv. One of the things about having Jan Marie around on telecommuting day is that when I go on break, I talk to her, and sometimes I can't escape. And so I'm telling her about my whole meow meow experience with Gordon's cat. And she laughed and she said, well, we are all cats. And then I told her about my beep beep from Pokimane. She said, did Gordon's car honk back? I said, I don't know. I'll have to find out. And there better be video. And then Gordon says there's no video. Working while listening, lover meows. I realized that I have replaced when, people talk and go blah, 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 blah. I changed that to meow, meow, meow. Because it's just more fun. Especially for the cat viewing audience. Very important demographic. So here's what I was talking about a little bit earlier. We have our new friend, Igba. Very active on Discord, not so much on our live stream. And here is Igba right here, liking the notification of our tweet that we are live. Right? But not here. And this is Igba's Twitter. Yes? This is the NFT art that Igba sells. Artisans 2005, inspired by the universe. One of ones, which is very smart. You can find them on OS, which is OpenSea. Gordon says every time you say beep, beep, I'm reminded of a song by a YouTube artist called Tom Scott that goes beep, beep, went the sheep. I said beep, beep, went the sheep. Cute. And maybe that's what Pokimane's talking about. Maybe that's what she's quoting. I don't know. But she does like cars, and she does play Grand Theft Auto every once in a while. And that's her new thing. Let's get going. Beep, beep. And our friend Igba says life is short. And then Igba posts these very interesting things that he draws by hand. I think on an iPad. We saw a video that he made the other day. And I guess OpenSea was, well, we'll talk about that in a little bit, was on their Discord server, which is a bad thing. And this is Igba drawing. It's all good. Igba, come back. We'll find a way to translate. Now, we were talking about eugenics and Sam Alito and abortion and all that. Blah, 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 meow, meow, meow. Beep, beep. And this is just a shocking story from Canada about a woman with disabilities nears medically assisted death after a futile bid for affordable housing. Now, I just read that and was like, what? A 31-year-old Toronto woman who uses a wheelchair is nearing final approval for medically assisted death request after a fruitless bid to secure an affordable apartment that doesn't worsen her chronic illnesses. I mean, I can't even believe I'm reading that sentence. The looming approval for death, surprisingly, makes her grateful. Now, right there in America, you'd say, well, she's mentally ill. She needs help. Someone who wants to kill themselves because they can't find an affordable apartment is not worth killing by the state, I guess. The looming approval for death, surprisingly, makes her grateful, relieved and elated to die, Denise said in an interview with CTV News. I was scared they weren't going to say yes. Dr. Kevorkian calling. Denise asked us not to use her real name to protect her identity. She was diagnosed with multiple chemical sensitivities, MCS, which triggers rashes, difficulty breathing, and blinding headaches, called hemiplegic migraines that cause her temporary paralysis. Now, who am I to say? But I can name several people right now that I know who are alive and who like to be alive, who are in much worse mental and physical shape than she. Chemicals make her sick. Said Denise, our cigarette smoke, laundry chemicals, air fresheners. She's at risk of anaphylactic shock and so has EpiPens at all times in case she has life-threatening allergic attack. Denise is also in a wheelchair after a spinal cord injury 6 years ago and has other chronic illnesses. Okay, to me, who am I? What do I know? It doesn't sound that bad. She desperately wants to move to an apartment that's wheelchair accessible and has cleaner air. But her only income is from Ontario's disability support program. She receives a total of $1,100 a month plus $50 for a special diet. And her doctors have been looking for a better house for her. Okay. Denise said she and her supporters have called 10 different agencies in Toronto over the past 6 months to locate housing with reduced chemical and smoke exposure that she can afford to live in. None of them could help me. Applying for medically assisted death has been surprisingly easier for her than finding a wheelchair accessible apartment. I mean, if I didn't know better, I would say this is from The Onion. This is the old Mad TV show. Well, you have allergies, and you have to breathe the air. Allergens are everywhere. The only choice you have is to die. I mean, it's just so awful and ridiculous. Applying for medically assisted death has been surprisingly easier. Denise said she began working on applications for MAID in the summer of 2021. A psychiatrist, she said, first deemed her competent to make the decision to choose death because she could not find an apartment. A second MAID provider reviewed her medical history and signed the approval for death. Another physician who offers medically assisted death has now asked her to finalize documents, including a power of attorney and funeral arrangements, along with a DNR, do not resuscitate order. She said she's finishing up the documentation. Denise has also asked doctors to waive the 90-day waiting period for people like her who are Track 2 cases, meaning their natural death isn't imminent, hoping for an earlier death. Bray said none of the doctors contacted her to learn about the efforts to help Denise find housing. This is despite research showing that people with multiple chemical sensitivities often improve in chemically cleaner environments. I mean, it's really even hard to keep reading because it's just so ridiculous. And I believe this is a PR ploy. I'm killing myself because I can't find a wheelchair-accessible apartment, hoping that someone will step forward and give her an apartment, or collect her a house, or clean her environment. It's just so ridiculous. Come on now. And she has a GoFundMe to try to help Denise find better accommodations. Yeah, see, it's all PR. And this is a long, strange, bizarre article. Society is failing these patients. My hope is that we can just put a stop to this very easy out that MAID is providing and start acknowledging that these people need to be helped. I just can't believe it's a real article, but I read it, I researched it, it came up in several different online verified news portals that this woman has approval from Canada to kill herself because she can't find an apartment. And in that search, this popped up. And this is a little bit older. Excuse me. I'm being hotboxed by my neighbors who are smoking the Mary Jane and the marijuana. I'm not killing myself because they're doing it, though. I will begrudgingly continue to live this life. Beep, beep. Meow, meow. The COVID Zoom boom is reshaping American Sign Language. Sounds sexy to me. Deaf people are adapting signs to accommodate the limitations of video communications while working from home. And this, which is making me dizzy, is the sign for Zoom. Zoom. Okay. Invented sign that's now standardized. And ASL users use video chat, video phones, FaceTime. It's been a salvation, really. There's no more TTY, which used to be teletypewriter for the deaf. Now they just pick up their cell phones and talk to each other. But the problem is, when you're doing Zoom meetings, you don't have depth perception. And if you've watched, and Jenna did a lot of teaching, all of her classes were online, and it went really well. I mean, there's one thing that you can be said about teaching online is that ASL is a terrific way to teach online. You do not have to be in person. Now, you do sort of have to be able to move a little bit because there is no depth perception. Like this is the sign for body. The sign indicating future tense, which is the sign that moves. It goes from one place to another. And so you sort of have to do adaptations, which I'll show you now. So when you're signing with somebody, video, and if you're talking to other deaf people, you don't have to do this because they know what they're doing and they understand what the sign is. But when you're dealing with the old hearing people or interpreters, you can't really see the depth of field. And when we would do this live stream with the Jana Marie Monster, and we had the wrong kind of camera with autofocus, it was a disaster. Because when you move like this and your hands move back and forth, the camera would try to focus, so it was just jittery. So now we sort of have this plane of everything that's sharp and in shape, but sometimes, you say future, and your hand goes way out here and it's out of focus, right? These fingers are not in focus. But the camera would try to put it in focus, then your face is out of focus. So you just have to accept that not everything's going to be perfect. So in ASL, this is where the body is, on this plane. And sometimes you have to sign in one plane. Instead of going back and forth, messing up your camera, you just keep it all here, 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 back and forth. And Jan's very good at that. Because when you're really talking, you're all over the place, your hands are out of the screen, and people have a hard time following you. So from the face forward is future. And from here to here, it's like now in this plane of the body, and the other plane is behind you, which is where the past is. Before, previous, yesterday, today, tomorrow, forward, here, tomorrow, forward, future, today, here, right here, yesterday, back. But if you're a young kid, you're learning ASL, you can't see the plane, it's not 3D. So what that article suggests, and what you figure out very quickly, especially if you're teaching ASL, is you show it two ways. So you show it that way, and then you turn and you show it this way. So tomorrow, so you can see the depth of field, right? Yesterday is this way, or this way. Yesterday. Today, right? And sometimes, by, you can't see how far. Does it go far? Does it go far? This far. You can see it from the side a little bit better. And that's what that article's saying. That's the big change in ASL is you have to turn sideways sometimes to pay forward. So that's very interesting that they're trying to say Zoom has changed the way that deaf Americans communicate, but not really. But sometimes when you're dealing with people who are new to the language or are interpreting, you have to move to the side just a little bit so they can see what you're trying to say. And speaking of Zoom, this was another interesting article about Zoom fatigue and how most people are not suffering from Zoom fatigue, online meeting fatigue, but they would consider quitting if they had to go back to work in person. And I agree. People worked for 2 years from home, and everything was just fine. The economy didn't fail. People didn't pay their student loans for 2 years and longer, and the economy's fine, and the economy didn't fail. So naturally, people are saying, why should I ever pay my student loan back? And people are naturally saying, why in the world would I want to go back to a commute into a stinky office and sit there with other stinky people when I would rather be home in my beautiful, clean, wheelchair-accessible apartment living my life? And who can blame them? Despite Zoom fatigue being discussed, most people are fine with it. They like their current telecommunicating habits. In fact, most people would look for a new job, or they already have looked for a new job, if their employer made them work in person. And Twitter has said you don't ever have to come back to the office, wherever you live. Apple and the Facebook have said, work from home as long as you want. And now, in the last 3 months, Apple and Facebook are saying, where we told you could stay home and work, we didn't mean it. Come back. And people are pushing back, saying, I don't want to go back to the office. I got all my work done here remotely just fine. And I did. So why do I have to go back to the office? A friend of mine who is a vice president of a very big investment bank in New York City had a baby during the pandemic. And she's had 3 babies. And this was the one where she got to be a mother pretty much 24 hours a day. And she loved it. And her baby was with her. She'd do a Zoom call, and not have her baby with her in a Zoom call, but the baby was right there, and she took care of the baby all day. Didn't have to give it to a nanny or a husband. The baby was hers. And now they're saying, well, you have to come. It was back in September. September, you have to come back. She said, I don't want to come back in September. I've been working remotely from home for 2 years. My numbers are up. I make you a lot of money. I'm not going back into the office. Everyone has to come back. September. And then we kind of had a rise. We had a spike last August. Kids were going back to school. Meow, meow. And they said, okay, well, the next 2 months is work from home. And last thing I heard is she was still fighting with them because they were negotiating. We'll come in 3 days a week. I don't want to come in any days a week. I'll come in once in a while for a meeting if it's really important. But for the day-to-day work, I do just fine working from my home office. And they're not interested. They don't want her to work from home. So she's trying to get that figured out. And younger workers especially prioritize remote work in their job hunts. And I agree. You see ads a lot. Working from home, remote. The job is in California, but you can work wherever you happen to be in the world. That is very, very, very tempting for people. And probably 5-10 years ago, you couldn't do it because we didn't have fast internet speeds, we didn't have fast computers, but now we do. So how are these big businesses going to handle it? I don't think they're handling it very well. When Zoom fatigue entered the popular lexicon 2 years ago, it suggested our collective tolerance for remote work had an expiration date. But these days, it looks like most people are still loving the work from home. And why wouldn't they? You have all the comforts of home, and you can work. Now, one thing that WordPress did, WordPress.com, when they first started, is they said, we don't have an office. We have office space in New York and Los Angeles and San Francisco, so if you want to have that kind of community, you can go in there and work. But otherwise, you work from home or work from the beach, just as long as you'll get your hours in. And if you want to take tomorrow off and not work, that's okay, just as long as you work the number of hours that you need to work. And we'll buy you a computer. And if you leave the company, you can keep your computer. So the computer is 100% yours. You can go Windows or Mac or Apple. It doesn't matter. It's all you. And once a year, we get together in an exotic place. I think 250 people. We all get together. We pay for it. We come, we say hello. You can put a name to the face if you want to. If you don't want to come, you don't have to come. And that's how we run our business. And they've done that from day one. And I think WordPress, that version .com has been around for now, 15 years or so? And they have very happy people, and they have people who always stay there. Beep, beep, I'm a sheep, Gordon said. I missed it. Beep, beep, I'm a sheep. Thank you, Gordon. And the great thing I have to say about WordPress and Matt Mullenweg's philosophy from the very beginning was this: if you don't like WordPress, you can leave. Because other places would lock you in. Movable type, typepad, you cannot export. You must stay with us. Gordon says, later you should check out the song. It's a good laugh. I will have to check out that song. And Matt Mullenweg said, look, we don't want you to stay with WordPress if you're not happy. You can pick up and go, and we will help you. You can export everything, images, all your code, all your articles, and if you don't know how to do it, we will help you do it. Because we don't want you to stay where you're not happy. And immediately, that puts everybody at ease. Because you know you're not locked in to one place. You can come and go as you please. And that I give a lot of credit to. Because that was very unique 15, 20 years ago. To allow really to be open, not maybe open source, but to be open to letting people come and go. And as we were finding Go Inside Magazine, Urban Semiotic, we would go back and forth between different blogging platforms. And Matt always welcomed us back to WordPress. And if we had to leave, he always said, if you have any problems with anything, let me know and I'll take care of it for you. And sometimes we had problems and he took care of it for us. And then they would use that, their openness, against these other closed companies, especially Movable Type and Typepad, where people would say to them on staff, we need to move a client from you to us, and we have no way of exporting the data. Why? And pushed them into doing that. And once that was pushed and everything was equal, WordPress won. People wanted to publish on WordPress and not on Typepad and not on Movable Type. So Matt knew he had a superior product from the very beginning. And it's paid off for him and it's paid off for his employees. And now we got to take one more final break. We will return in a moment. And we're back. I'm David Boles. This is Boles.tv. BOLES.television.tv, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern. Well, we were talking a little bit about Zoom fatigue and coronavirus, and it's very sad and scary that coronavirus is rearing its ugly head once again in New York City. Infections, I believe, are up in the past week or two by 1,700. The flag is now gone from green to yellow. And people still say, let's eat out, let's take off our mask, let's go dancing. And Janus students, in the past, I would say 5 days, 30% of them have tested positive for COVID. After all of this work for 2 years of being protected, of wearing your mask in class, then they said, well, in common areas, you can take off your mask, but when you go into a classroom situation, you must put on your mask. So instead of being 100% protected by a mask on campus, you're now 60% protected. And hey, 5 days, 30% increase in COVID infections. It's outrageous. So we finish the day with this really interesting conversation on Bloomberg. Now, I have subscribed to Bloomberg. It's very expensive. For a year, they want around $500 for a yearly subscription. But they keep offering me this 99-cent subscription monthly for 3 months, pay $1 a month for 3 months, and then it'll go up to, I think, something outrageous like $38. So I do often take advantage of those $1 deals because I like them. And so for 3 months, I can use Bloomberg as a news source. And I've been very curious about how they do their news gathering. And it's a big top company. So I saw this article yesterday about Bored Ape thefts on Instagram. Are crypto's latest hack headaches. And just this morning, I got a notification on Discord, interestingly enough, from Known Origin. Known Origin takes NFTs, resells them, but under their brand and protection. So if you buy from, say, on OpenSea from Known Origin, they have a blue check mark, which means they're verified, so these new artists that they've discovered are not going to rip you off. They have original content. And then Known Origin also has, they're British, also has their own website where you can just go directly there and buy from them, which I've done. The whole Life magazine thing, that story, that was all Known Origin. And Known Origin posts an alert in their Discord server saying, hey, OpenSea has been hacked on Discord. So if you get a direct message, a DM from anybody claiming to sell YouTube NFTs on the OpenSea Discord server, ignore it because it's a scam. Now, I thought that was really very nice of Known Origin to do that. I understand they're protecting their own backside, but still, it's a nice thing that they did to tell everybody else, hey, don't go over to a Known Origin Discord server right now because they're having trouble. And then that kind of made sense to me because still, we are now on our third day of our server, discord.gg/BOLES. Meow, meow. Being hit by these waves of 4 and 5 new registrations at a time, with the account age being not even a day old, trying to register for my Discord server. And I keep asking the world, why are they here? What are they trying to do? And I guess they're trying to get on the server so they can send people on the server, whatever, DM messages to try to steal their NFT accounts. That's all I can imagine. Or they want to post hate messages, or they think it's unmoderated, and they can make sales by posting links. I don't know. But I'm grateful I have the bots standing in for me and standing up for me to push these people away. So Bloomberg has this great story. When it comes to crypto hacks, the story is often the same. Scammers take advantage of a vulnerability in a blockchain's design and make off with millions. Like in the $600 million plus heist involving the play-to-earn NFT game Axie Infinity and the $77 million theft that took place Saturday on a decentralized finance project, Rari Capital and Fay Protocol. But a $3 million hack last week involving NFTs from the popular Bored Ape Yacht Club universe exploited a different kind of weakness that is not unique to the blockchain. This is why I like Bloomberg, because they have very interesting articles and very different analysis from what you see in the mainstream. Scammers infiltrated the NFT collection's official Instagram account and posted a link to a fake website where users connected their crypto wallets, oh boy, for what they thought was an NFT launch. In reality, they had unwittingly opened themselves up to theft. When the actual launch happened on Saturday, users were again targeted when scammers posted links to fake websites that ended up cleaning users out of NFTs worth a collective $6.2 million. And I know this happened because in one of my Discord servers, people are talking about how they were completely wiped out. One guy said he doesn't have any money, never had any money, but in his wallet, with the NFTs he had purchased, he had $600,000. They was all gone. Because of that hack. The incidents exemplify a growing trend in which social media is being used as a tool for amplifying and executing crypto and NFT scams. These thefts aren't just hitting Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and the chat platforms Discord and Telegram. They are also fertile ground for these maneuvers. We've seen more and more attacks and hacks in Web3 and the blockchain industry, and many of them have new forms of attack, which we haven't seen before. Well, isn't that terrifying? We aren't even into Web3 yet, and they're coming after us. So here we go. Unfortunately, the Bored Ape Yacht Club has to say, hey, there's no mint going... Hey, there's no mint going on today. It looks like Bored Ape Yacht Club Instagram was hacked. Do not mint anything, click links, or link your wallet to anything. Very sad. And this is the world in which we live, where the criminals are smarter than the good people who are just trying to enjoy their NFTs, maybe make $1 or $2. And instead, they're thrown into this terrible melange of criminality and stealing everything that's in your wallet. They're not just stealing your NFTs, they're stealing the money that's also in your wallet. And how do you protect yourself? You have to do due diligence. You have to do your own research, as they say. DYOR is the acronym you see a lot on these Discord servers. And it's sort of prejudicial because you're telling people to do your own research, figure it out on your own, you big dummy. And people get offended by that when that's the answer to their terrible cries for help. Do your own research, figure it out. I want to say meow meow, but I feel like saying blah blah. Bah. And so on that lovely high note, we come to the end of our, not even a work week, our live stream broadcast week here on Boles.tv. Video on demand is on Boles.live. BOLES.live. If you have any questions or comments, suggestions for the show, send me an email. David@Boles.tv. On Instagram, Boles Books. Facebook, BOLES. On Twitter, we are the Meow Meows. At David Boles, super follows to follow. On TikTok, we are Boles TV. And on Discord, you can find us if you want to participate in this madness. Oh, Gordon says, there was a comic where a guy calls a helpline for help with his computer. The help person tells him to neatly stack his parts in a pile, then stand on a chair and yell, "Does anyone know how to read a manual?" That's a good one. Very true. And what was that they would say? I'm remembering this from my old volunteer support days on CompuServe, online, in the Toshiba forum. I would never use this, but other people would. RTFM. RTFM. Read the manual. Do your own research. Interesting, right? It's moved from one thing to the other. Read the effing manual, mother effer. Do your own research, you big dummy. And meanwhile, neither of those help. If you tell someone to read the manual, they're already at a point where they're frustrated enough they're not going to be able to read anything. And if someone's just lost $600,000 in their Ethereum wallet, they don't want to be told to do your own research. I just did it. I lost $600,000. Now what? Well, I tell you to read the effing manual, but there's no manual for this. So you can join our Discord server. We have lots of different things going on there. You can join our live text, our live chat. If you want access to the live chat voice channel, you have to get in touch with me so I can give you access there. But the text chat part of that is open, not locked. So I will see you again on Monday. In the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful nap. I hope you awaken ready to go, and I hope you go to sleep early and get some good refreshness. And when ye shall awaken, may your soul be filled with joy, and maybe one or two beep beeps, and a whole bunch of meow meows. I'll see you Monday.